and an EMBA from Accra Business School. So please join me welcome our facilitator for today, Balikis Salaudin Ibrahim. So please let me see your emojis in the chat box welcoming our facilitator for today. So thank you. Thank you, and you may have the floor.
All right, thank you so much. Good morning, everyone. I hope you all can hear me very clearly. Apparently, I have another engagement in the next hour, so I'm trying to ensure that we're able to maximize time. And if you have questions in between my session, please feel free to ask question, and I'll be more than happy to take them. So we'll go right into it. But I wanted to start with, do you have, I know that I shared some pre-assessments with everyone. Is there anybody who would like to share his or her experience filling the assessment? And the second thing I will request is if you can put in the chat box your name, the organization that you work with, and what you guys are doing in the climate space. So we can do that as I continue my presentation. I'll be checking the chat, but let's take one or two people who can give us the experience of filling the assessment form. I believe everyone has filled the assessment form. So please feel free to raise your hand and unmute and share your experience filling the assessment form, please. Sorry, am I in the right Zoom? Am I talking to the right people? Because, all right, Paul, please unmute.
Okay, good morning, ma'am. So filling the assessment form was reflective for me in terms of how I communicate to my target audience, right? So I needed to think through and relate my mode of communication to the terms in the assessment form. However, there are some terms that are new to me, which I'm looking forward to gaining deeper insight during this session. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Paul. So we'll go right into it. So today, as the moderator has introduced, my name is Balikis Salaudin Ibrahim, and it's really a pleasure to facilitate this session on advancing impact through communication for climate action. And I've particularly tailored this towards aligning strategies for non-governmental organizations, civil societies in Nigeria. And I believe these are my target audience. So please feel free to introduce yourself using the chat so we can get to know each other. So we're going to look at an overview. We're going to look at all of this content today, and you can be rest assured that this will be worthy of your time. So what is the overview of climate action in Nigeria? So we all can agree that Nigeria is, relatably facing diverse climate crises, right? Just like many other African continents. However, in Africa, we only contribute to less than 4% of the global emission, but we are greatly affected by this crisis. So Nigeria is grappling with a range of climate-related challenges, including desertification in the northern part of Nigeria, flooding in coastal communities. For this particular flooding and coastal erosion, I can give you a go-to that it is really happening. It's not by text, it's not by word. I was at a coastal community on Sunday. That was where I spent my entire Sunday. And I could feel the pain that people are going through, people who live in coastal communities. they are really going through a lot. Water is literally taking over their schools, their houses, their burial grounds. The fishermen are not able to fish. So these are like problems, right, that people who live in these regions are facing. And then these issues have significant impact on livelihood. As I said, fishermen are not able to fish again. They're not able to get food on their table. They're not able to access quality healthcare. Children are not able to go to school. So for you as CSOs and NGOs, you play a very important and crucial role in addressing these challenges, by advocating for sustainable practices, influencing policies, and educating the public about climate risk and solutions. So the importance of effective communication. Number one is, why is communication, why is it even important in the first place? Why does it matter? Communication strategies can galvanize communities into action. The moment you're able to get your communication right, you can get into the right community and you can get their buy-ins. Encouraging participation in climate initiatives. So you're not going to communities for innovations or solutions. You're going into the community to drive community engagement using your enhanced climate communication strategy and ensuring that people in that community are part of the process of the initiative that you're bringing to them. Then, clear, persuasive communication is very important to influencing policymakers and advocating for stronger climate policies. So if your communication is not clear, there is no how policymakers can do anything. There is no how they can play important role or crucial role in ensuring that whatever target, whatever request you're making, they're able to get it. Then we have building trust and credibility. Building trust and credibility is also very, very important. If you're not consistent with your communication, if you're not transparent about it, people would not understand what you stand for. People will not understand what you're trying to build. So you have to be consistent and transparent in your communications, and you have to ensure that you build trust over time with your stakeholders, including communities, your donors, and government agencies. So you don't want to walk into the Ministry of Environment today in your community and you say one thing today, then tomorrow you're coming with another thing. You have to build credibility. You have to build trust. And your communications must be very, very consistent. Ensuring that at the end of the day, the goal here is to achieve climate action in this community, leveraging support from your donors and other partners. So I also listed like 3 challenges, right, that climate communications organizations, climate organizations literally face in developing their communication strategy. So number 1 is limited resources and funding. Most of the time, organizations do not have access to the right funding and adequate resources to carry out their initiative. So many of them have to operate on a tight budget, making it challenging to invest in high quality communication materials, tools, or professional expertise. These limitations can no hinder their ability to reach wider audiences effectively. So you have to be able to ensure that you, no matter the resources that you really have, honestly, you should also ensure that you're able to have a clear communication to the public about what you're doing so that people can connect with you. People can understand what you're saying. People can understand what you're trying to communicate with them. But I've highlighted this, and I'm sure that many of you can resonate this as one of the challenges that you're facing in your organization. Then we have the cultural and linguistic diversity. Most of the time we go, for Nigeria, we are a large population with different languages. So many a times organizations struggle to adapt to the language that communities are speaking, to understand their cultural context and how to apply it in their communication strategy. So it is very important that before organizations go into communities, they first understand their cultural and linguistic diversity, what they are, what they stand for, who they are as people, right? Then you can now use that as an entry point, as an entry strategy to develop your communication for that community. Then access to technology and media. I mean, I understand that many of us have access to these media platforms. We're able to leverage them. We're able to use them just like we're using Zoom now to have this session. We're able to leverage it. But urban areas, this is where these things are happening. The moment we move to urban areas now, you would realize that we don't have access to internet to be able to use many of these technology, right? And then you also realize that many of the people who are carrying this innovation or technology to meet, they don't know, they don't understand the utilization. So this digital divide limits the reach of communication efforts, and it requires alternative approaches such as community radio or face-to-face interaction. So yeah, so I mean, maybe you can put in the chat, let me know how are you leveraging communication? How are you, with these challenges I've highlighted, how are you solving them respectively with your organization? You don't have access to funding. How are you managing? How are you surviving? You don't have understanding of the language the community is speaking. How are you still able to carry out your project? Your internet is not available the moment you enter the community. So you're not able to do Instagram live sessions. What alternative do you come up with? Do you go with your cinematographer to document the process of your work in that community, then come back to the city and, you know, show us on social media, oh, this is what you've been up to in the last few weeks with your team members? So, I mean, I'd like to know more, but these are really like ways we can solve some of these challenges. Then these are some of the strategies that we have been able to come together to see how you can use it to enhance your communication impact, right? So number one is tailoring content for different audiences. So I am one person, Nigerian Youth SDG is another person or people. By the time you're communicating to Nigerian Youth SDGs, you cannot be using the same language that you're using for them for me. Because why? They are a group of individuals who are like, they are an organization. I am just one person. So you can't use the same communication for the two of us. It has to be diverse. It has to be different. So you have to be able to understand the specific needs and concerns of different groups, such as youth, women, farmers, for example. You want to go to you want to meet with farmers, you don't know how to go about it, but you're just like, oh, what language should you speak? What kind of communication content would they be able to relate to? You have to understand the specific needs of your specific audience. So you can't create the same messaging for people. And this is why you really need a communication expert on your team. So you might not be the communication expert. You might not be the person that has a knack for communication and digital media, but you can recruit an expert in this regard to come and help you tailor content to different audience. You cannot be using the same content for urban areas and rural communities. It has to be very different. And for instance, you have a message for farmers, which, you know, you have to focus on sustainable agriculture. And then you have messages for urban youth. You know, you might want to emphasize on the role of young people using technology for climate smart agriculture. You see, there are two different messages, right? So you have to be able to tailor your message to the right audience. Then the second point here is leveraging digital media. So social media is a platform, I mean, is one of the most leveraged platforms that people use. We have different ones: Facebook, Twitter, WhatsApp, Instagram, TikTok. They are very powerful tools for reaching large audiences, you know, quickly and cost effectively. You don't need so much money. I mean, we all are on WhatsApp. You can create a WhatsApp community where you share the work that you're doing, right, with your contact. Then we have blogs and websites, you know, where you can continually provide content, longer posts like blog posts to show and share insights about that work that you're doing and update people about your climate action in communities. So it doesn't cost so much. So you can decide to develop your website using WordPress, get a developer to help you with that if you don't understand how to go about it. Recruit someone to help you manage it. Get your team to write opinion pieces that can be posted. You know, you can post these things on your website as blog posts, and you can also, you know, shorten the content. You can also shorten the content to fit for Facebook, Twitter, then Instagram, LinkedIn, your WhatsApp community. So these things are highly very important. Then you have to also collaborate with influencers. So we have some influencers, some journalists who are really interested in climate change and how it is impacting lives and communities. So these are people you might want to see how you can leverage collaboration with and work together with them. And then we also have bloggers, right? We have a lot of bloggers. How can we start collaborating with bloggers to enhance climate action in the country? So these are opportunities that really lies in leveraging digital media. And then we have storytelling, share stories of individuals, communities. However, there's this thing I want to emphasize. Do not share people's story without their permission. It is very, very important. If I'm telling you something, I'm not giving you the authority to share with other people. If you come to my community, if I'm not asking you to show video or clips about what is affecting me in my community, I do not want to see myself on social media because you can be sued for it. So before you go ahead with all of these things, ensure that you have the permission and the buy-ins of communities of people that you want to engage, that you want to tell their story. So don't tell people's story without their permission. However, storytelling is one of the most powerful tools that you can leverage on, right? Then using visuals and narratives that resonate with communities. So you have to be able to use visuals to be able to tell people's story to themselves, to see where they are as people, as community, and see how they can work together to propose solution to their pressing issues, right? Then you can also use these visuals and narrative to be able to help them tailor support towards their community, mobilize resources from partners to come to the aid of these individuals. So that's it about the strategies that I think you can start looking into to do your work, right? Then building partnership for amplified impact. So you can partner with radio stations, TV, media. Many of them now are really interested in climate topic, right? So it's a good advantage for you. You can engage, I mean, very, very important. You cannot have an entry point to a community without engaging with the community leaders. So you have to ensure that you work closely with the traditional rulers, the religious leaders, the head of the community that you're entering to, get their buy-in and acceptability first. Then they would be the one to open the doors of their community to you to do your work and engage their people. Then you have to also form alliances with the government. I always say these things. Government is not our enemy. There are levels of government. You can decide to work with the local government, the state government, the federal government, depending on the expanse of your work, right? But government, you should see them as your collaborator. Private sectors, a lot of them now so a lot of them now are really investing in green economy, this climate action thing. A lot of them are doing that. So this is also an opportunity for you to look into. Then we have the international organizations. You know, this type of partnership can really help you and boost the work that you're doing. However, you have to know how to tailor your communications and your messaging. And then measuring and evaluating impact. It is also very, very important that you're able to effectively track your communication. So you can use surveys, you can use social media analytics, you can use community feedback, you can just to regularly check and be sure that people are understanding your messaging, people understand what you're trying to tell them, people understand your communications. And if they don't, or they have queries or questions or doubt, you can now use this data to adjust accordingly. Then adapting strategy based on what works and what doesn't work. So you can't expect that everything would be working in your way. No, you have to continually use insight, feedbacks, evaluation to refine your communication strategy, especially when you're working with diverse community. Action points for me to you is, this session is supposed to say a day masterclass, but what I've done is I've looked at what are the top most important things, and those are the things I've shared with you this morning. What are the next steps for you is now what I want to tell you. You have to invest in training, in communication training and tools for you and your team. So when I say for you and your team, it's not about you as founders. It's not about you as the team lead. It's about the team itself. If you're not investing in your team, you won't get results. You might not be a communications person. Invest in your communications director, your communications associate. You might not be the one managing your organization's social media as a founder. Invest in your social media manager to be able to take on trainings and learn new tools that can help you and your team communicate your climate action effectively to the public. Advocating for capacity building initiative. You can decide to come up with community engagement where you can build capacity for other initiatives, probably from what you have learned from me this morning. You can step down the knowledge. I'm always very open. You can reach out to me. I'll be very happy to create classes like this for you and your team, just to see how we can ensure that we have more organizations who are talking the talk, who are taking the action, and who are giving the right communication to the community. And just to reemphasize that skills and tools are out there. They just need you to come and use them. It's very simple. It's not complicated. It's not it's not a rocket science. It's just communication. It's just me talking to you. So let me use this as an example. Today I've come with this very brief slide. This is literally my last slide. But I want to believe that you have been able to catch 1, 2, 3, or 4, 5 things that would help your organization moving forward in your communication. It might not even be for climate change. It might be for any other cause, any other initiative that you're pushing, right? So investment is very, very good. Thank you so much. If you have questions for me, please feel free to throw them in. I'm happy to take them. Thank you. Paul, please unmute your mic. Paul, you can
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for this nice session. So yes, while I was reading the pre-assessment, I came across a particular question that asked, how do we address communication challenge in communities that we engage? So I coastal communities in southwestern Nigeria, particularly Ilaje. Now, sometimes after localizing the context of climate change into simple things, right? There are some of these communities that they have their dialects. Not all of them understand English and the usual Yoruba that we speak. So most times, even after we have inducted members of the community into our project team along the line, 2-3 months, train them so that they can interpret and all, there are some particular sessions that can only be led by an expert, right? And the only way we address this is using visuals. So, but what do you think we can do to make that aspect of communication more effective?
Yeah, thank you so much for that important question. So when we talk about investment in team, so it's not just limited to the core team. So for example, now, Nigerian Youth SDG have this program that they're doing for you guys. And they brought in experts like me and other people, myself and other people, right, to come and train you on them. So it's always good to bring in experts. You can even get experts from the communities. So for example, when I was at this village community on Sunday, right, we met with the president of the fishermen community members. And this man, we had an interview session with him, and you could tell that he's very, very smart and understands what he's doing. Some of them even understand what climate change is, that this thing that is happening to them is related to climate change. So I think that when you leverage experts that can do the work, give them the money to do the work. Don't put that burden on yourself, right? That is why we have experts who have enhanced their skills, their knowledge in those particular areas. They just need you to come and tap into their knowledge and be able to do your work. It's as simple as that. So leverage experts as much as possible. You can't know it all as a team, but let your team also learn from experts. So when an expert is taking a session that you're doing, let your team members be there to learn so that they're able to learn and replicate whenever you don't have funding or capacity to bring in an expert. Yeah. Paul, I don't know if that resonates with you. Okay, I don't know, maybe Paul dropped off, but do we have any other question?
Yes, I responded. Yes.
All right, thank you, Paul. All right, do we have any other question, responses? I'll be very happy to take them. Emmanuel, please unmute and ask a question.
Okay, good morning. Thank you so much for driving this conversation around communication. So I really want to ask, how do we utilize, I'm talking about the media now, I want to restrict my question to the media when it comes to communication, both conventional media like newspaper and social media for our communities. Now, looking at digital divide that some of these communities we are going to be working with, I don't want to assume, but seeing that some won't have access to social media, how do we utilize the media itself for conversations like this? Then could we bring in innovations like having a podcast, having experts working in that field, in like now for Ondo State and from Ondo State now working in that field, come to talk about the impact of climate change and how what the government is doing towards addressing that? Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much, Emmanuel. You've actually asked a very, very important question, I must say. And the most important thing here is that you need to understand that media are for everybody. As you've mentioned, you already provide a solution to your question, which is leveraging media for podcasts. You can decide to come up with your own podcast. You don't necessarily have to be on anybody's podcast. YouTube, for example, has a podcast avenue for you. And then you have the likes of some media houses, right, that are really very receptive. So they're very happy to cover your story and your work. And then you also have relationships that you can leverage in the media space. So not necessarily you owning it, but you know somebody that knows somebody that you can just like, okay, please, I have this work we do in the community and would love you to help us amplify our work. So these are approaches that you can take to get people's buy-in and support for your project. So yeah, a podcast is a good one. I can even start with YouTube, which is very free. Yeah. Emmanuel, I hope that's clear.
Yeah, that's clear. Then I want to ask now, seeing the kind of communities we have, how do we utilize the media for them? Like you've already said, media is for everybody, but how do we use the media to also engage our community now? Very specific, like our community, how do we use that to engage, like the general public itself?
Yeah, so you can leverage on radio. Radio is very good, and radio is a platform that a lot of people get into very quickly. So you can leverage on radio. You can leverage on newspaper. A lot of community people still read newspapers, so you can leverage on newspaper for that specific approach. Yeah, so those are like medias that you can leverage. But I mean, for the likes of podcasts, you can't leverage podcasts for community members because first, they don't have access to the internet. But yeah, they have access to newspapers, they listen to radio stations. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Let's have Umar.
Okay, thank you very much. My question draws down to people we call the community gatekeepers. You spoke about leveraging on community heads, chief, even if we have a youth leader, we leverage on them sometimes when we are going for community engagement or any needs assessment possible. But sometimes you express a bit of hiccup with those community gatekeepers where they tend to like a bit frustrate you when it comes to you penetrating their communities. And because these people are so key and they are so strong in that community, the people do not even listen to you without their community keepers. I learned something from Youth Hub Africa to like leverage on every sub person in the community. Maybe, for example, the youth leader is there, the woman leader is there, and every other associations you can identify in the community. But sometimes you tend to like have that difficulty because they still have this one person they are loyal to and they listen to him and he has the final say. So when one encounters that kind of challenges, do you have an advice on any other way to look into it?
Sorry, Umar, my network was a bit breaking up. So can you please summarize the question again for me, if you don't mind? Thank you.
Okay, the question in summary is when you encounter difficulty from community gatekeepers, how to penetrate that community better.
Okay, see, this is something that is peculiar to everybody and everybody experience it, right? But when I was giving my presentation, I'm sure I mentioned something around collaboration with community members, the leaders, the religious leaders and traditional rulers. If you don't have relationship with these people, you cannot do anything in the community. But the moment you have a relationship with these individuals, forget about gatekeepers. There are no gatekeepers because you can easily go walk up to these leaders that you already have as an entry point, you know, to report them to. So let me give you a very clear example. So I have a farm, right? And the day we were constructing our greenhouse on the farm, these boys came, and these are boys that we previously offered job on the farm, but they refused. And they came and they said they are omonile, that we're going to pay money before we start the construction of those greenhouses. And they said we're going to give them, I think, 25,000 naira. So we did not argue because we need work to start and we don't want any form of conflict with the community. We gave them that 25,000. But you know what happened? We're able to get back that 25,000 naira the same day. Because immediately they left, we put a call through to the ballet of the village and we informed him of what happened. This is a village where we're creating jobs, improving livelihoods, and then some nuisance are coming to disrupt the work that we're doing, right? Immediately, the valet went to meet them, retrieved the money, and brought it back to us. So this is because we have a good relationship, understanding relationship with the head of the village. If we did not have that relationship, we would not get that 25,000 naira back, and they will continually come and disrupt the work that we're doing. So I think the first most important thing is have a strong hold in the community that you can always fall back to when anybody stand up and say they are gatekeeping whatever you're doing in the village or in the community. Does that make sense, Mark? And maybe just to add to it also, it's also dependent on our approach as individuals on how we approach things, how we talk to people. So you have to make sure that you're going into a village where they are speaking Yoruba, for example, and you want to meet with the head of the village and you're speaking English, the acceptability and reception level is going to be very low. But when you speak to them in the language that they understand at your first entry point, they'll be so happy. And then when you also make them feel like they are part of the solution process. So you're not coming and saying, oh, we noticed that you don't have water in your village. We want to come and drill borehole for you. That entry point is already bad. You have to understand first from the community perspective how the unavailability of water is affecting their life. Then come up with strategy of communication by saying something like, okay, what do you think will come up with a solution to solve this problem? We're thinking, or what do you think? Let them even be the one to recommend. They can now start saying, we're hoping that some people can come and drill borehole for us. We're hoping organizations can look at us, governments can come and do this and that. Then you can now come up with, okay, it's something we can try and see how we can mobilize resources collectively. So that way, the community members, they feel carried along and they feel supported by the work that you're doing. So they feel like they are part of it. This is their work. It's not just about you or your organization. Yeah. So whatever happens afterwards, they're able to continually support you. So Umar, I hope that's clear. Okay, so let's have Ayodeji. Ayodeji, you can unmute your mic and speak.
All right. Hello. Hey.
You're breaking.
Oh. So one is about the internal communication strategy for organization like ours, understand, or any other organization. When you were talking the other time, you said, okay, maybe a founder or some of the persons, they are not the communication guy, they are not the social media guy. How do we make people to, our members now, internally now, before we even go out, how do we make them to, how do we communicate the strategy to climate resilience or climate education? How do we communicate to them that they will understand, that it will not be too formal, that it will not be too informal? So that's my number one question, how to balance that. Then the other one is that now with the Gen Z, you get a lot of them, they don't see the TV, they don't see the news, they don't list, they don't read any long article, they don't even want to listen to any postcard that is not talking about money, relationship, or something else. So how do we now communicate better? Having in mind these are the younger generations, how do we communicate this climate change better, climate resilience better to them? What other tools? Yeah, we've been using this to, one of the reasons that better traction for us in Plug in Nigeria is because we know that a lot of people, young people, they love the trendy stuff, trendy events. They want to join. Then they love to participate.
I can't hear you again.
They love.
Hi, can you hear me? Okay, while we try to get Ayo's network back up, I think I'll just answer the second question first, which is about creating content that attracts the younger generation. See, I have followed Nigerian Youth SDGs. I have followed Plug in Nigeria, and I can tell you that Nigerian Youth SDG is for young people. Plug in Nigeria is for undergraduates, more specific now. So you have a hedge and you have an advantage. And what does that advantage mean? It means that you have the power of bringing younger generations together to solve particular problems. There was a time your founder posted about how somebody, I don't know, got a scholarship in Canada or something, and he reached out to him and was really appreciative of how his activity and engagement with Plug in Nigeria was instrumental to him getting that scholarship. These are contents that you want to be sharing on social media. Not necessarily you sharing how people are doing cleanups every time, but you need to also re-strategize on your communication content to say, how do you now start sharing testimonies of previous members or current members of Plug in Nigerians, how they are using this opportunity to get other and bigger opportunities after graduation from school. People will chip in. A lot of young people will chip in. And let me also let you know that not every young person is your audience. Not everybody is going to be your audience. Not everybody is going to be interested in what you're doing, right? But you see, that undergraduate target that you already have, just key into it, leverage it, and use it very, very well, right? I've seen a couple of people referencing you guys in their theses, in their academic paper, in their project dedication. Do interview sessions with these individuals, post them on TikTok, create live sessions on Instagram, organize Twitter spaces, let them talk about their experience, right? So when people hear that it's not just about cleaning up or jogging and picking up trash, it's beyond it for a lot of people. Now a lot of people are using it as an avenue, as a stepping stone, as a foundation to attract, more funding, to attract more scholarship, to attract more speaking engagements or speaking opportunities. They are even able to travel abroad for conferences and summits just because they are part of Plug in Nigeria, right? That is going to be very attracting to people. Okay, and also letting people understand the urgency and the importance of our own generation to be able to collab to sort of profile sustainable solution to climate crisis is also very key. So let me just recap my key recommendation. Number one is leverage TikTok. Bring your guys together that are really successfully attract scholarship funding, conferences at the global stages, and let them do interviews that can be merged together into a TikTok section, into a TikTok clips and share on TikTok. Use them as reels on your Instagram. Also create Instagram live sessions. Use them on YouTube, YouTube Shorts clips. Use them, bring them together for a Twitter space conversation. People will start wanting to be part of it. It will now start igniting people's interest. And then your first question on internal communication, it is very, very important that your communication as an organization is not created by an individual. It should be created through collective effort of every member of the team. So you have, for example, in your organization, you have your communication department, and then you now have your head of climate change, head of women empowerment, head of youth engagement, head of human resource, head of volunteers. Now, all these all these leaders that I've mentioned, they have to co-create your communication strategy with your head of communication. Your head of communication is just like a like a messenger. The people doing the main work are the leaders or the team members in all these departments I've mentioned. So if they do not co-create the communication plan or strategy together, it will be very difficult for them to key into the organization's communication plan, because they would not understand what are the things that you need from my team to send out there. What are the things that, what are the timelines? What are the procedures, right? What are the targets that we need to tailor our content towards? What are the timeline for reporting about events? What are the, if it is not co-created, it is going to be scattered. People will not understand the process. People will not understand what you're doing. So it has to be co-created. It has to be inclusive. It has to be everybody coming on board. So when all the team leads have come together to co-create this, then you now say your communications head or director do a formal presentation of the organization's communication plan with the entire team, both the management, the volunteer, everybody in the organization. Now present it to them to get their input and feedback on that communication strategy, get their questions, and also a bit of mandatory of how it is important that everybody follows the flow of this communication plan for us at this so organization. So that is my recommendation on that. Ayo, is that clear?
Yes, very clear, very clear. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. Do we have any other question from any other person? I'm happy to take one.
Yeah. Thank you so much for your session. I have some questions here in the chat box. So the first one says, what strategies can we use to ensure that our climate communication efforts are inclusive and equitable, amplifying the voices and perspective of marginalized communities who are often most vulnerable to climate impacts?
All right, thank you
You
so
take one
much.
after the yeah.
Yeah, I'll just take that first. So really, as I said, right, there was a part where I was talking about storytelling, where I said that it is very, very important that you take permission from community members before you tell their story. When you take permission from community members before you tell their story, they feel more comfortable to tell their real story, because they are probably comfortable with you sharing that story out there. So that would be a very good leverage for you. Then also, don't do it for the buzz. Don't do it for trending. Don't do it because you want to be the most reputable or the most, the most go-to organization when it comes to climate change or local community engagement. No. A lot of people are doing it for the buzz. They go to communities, they bring out their cameras, they snap them, even without their permission, right? And they get this content and they just post about it online. Then people start pitting without necessarily providing any solution to the community. So you have to make sure that there is an end to that story you're trying to tell. There is an end to that content you're trying to create. There's an end to that communication that you're trying to develop. If there is no end to it, and what I mean by end is a solution-driven end, right? It can be as little as saying that, okay, you want to use this documentary to present to the Nigerian Governors Forum to help them understand how community are suffering in coastal communities, or how students are suffering during heat waves in school. How the importance of more tree planting in schools and higher institutions. Then you have an end. right? Then that is content, that is story, that is communication. But when you have communications without end, it becomes your own, you doing your own thing. Really, it just becomes you just have a free time. You're just trying to create content and carry camera around. Yeah. Next question.
All right, thank you for that. So the next one says, how can we tailor climate communication strategies to resonate with different cultural and social groups?
So before you can even develop a climate communication first, you have to understand that you are not even talking about, let's even look at what is this climate change that is affecting this community, this village, this region, right? How do we now ensure that these communities come together with you to create your communication plan for that region, for that organization, right? So let's take Hausa and Igbo. Let's take Hausa and Yoruba, for example. In the northern part of Nigeria, I already established that they have a lot of drought, right? Then in this southern part of Nigeria, we've seen a lot of flooding, right? So that means you cannot be talking about flooding where it is not happening. You have to talk about flooding where it is happening. You have to get your data right. And it is when you have your data right, you have your community buying, you co-create together. That is when you can communicate this problem. You cannot be in the northern part of Nigeria. You cannot be in the southern part of Nigeria. I mean, there are some part of the southern part that have drought, right? But you can't be in the part that doesn't have drought and be talking about drought. You have to be specific. You have to be sure that this thing that you're talking about is the right thing. And that is why I think at this point I need to talk about research. Community engagement, pre-community assessment is very, very important. And without it, you can't do anything. You have to first visit communities, see what it is like, see what is it in that community, before you can now say you want to come back to the community and do proper engagement. So you need to do your pre-assessment with the community, and these are part of the research that you have to do in the beginning. So when you follow all these strategies, all these steps, it will help you to create a proper communication plan and communication techniques for each of your target audience and regions that you're looking to solve that problem. I don't know if that makes sense. And maybe just to add that if you go to a community, you see that they are more of a newspaper person than listening to radio. So why should you be using radio to communicate to them or to drive your communication? Why not use newspaper that they are used to? You know that they speak Yoruba in this community. Why are you going to the Guardian newspaper? You can literally just use the indigenous newspapers that speak to the language of these people, right? So also understanding the kind of media that these individuals, this community are using to get their information is also very important. Yeah, any other question?
Oh, none from the chat box.
Okay, I see Jojo. Please unmute and ask a question. Please unmute your mic and ask a question. Okay, probably our network is not good. Yeah, so really, I think that's pretty much it from my end. But if there's anything you're taking away from this session this morning, it should be that you should not tell stories of communities without the community's approval. You should not do that. Yo-Yo, I can see that you're mute. Please, I can't hear you. We can't hear you. Do you want to perhaps put your question in the chat and we'll take it up from there? All right, so over to the host.
Oh, so thank you so much for this insightful session. And I wish there's a way we can do like a rain clap or that to our facilitator, but for this platform, there's no way to do that. Thank you so much. It's been a wonderful session, very packed and insightful, and we really appreciate you for this. And I want to believe that based on the lessons that we've learned, we will start thinking of creative ways to communicate the progress, updates, and impacts of the work we do in our community. And of course, let's remember to keep it clear. Let's be consistent and transparent in our communication. And of course, we would understand the cultural context to build our strategies. And of course, tailoring the messaging to our diverse audience. And in all of it, just like the facilitator clearly stated, let's always get consent before telling the story of the community where we are implementing. Thank you so much. So please, let's clap for our facilitator. Let me see your emojis clapping for our facilitator for this wonderful session, for this impactful session. We are really grateful to have you. Thank you.
Yeah,
I can't see us clapping. I can't see us clapping. Keep it coming, keep it coming, keep it coming.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I really had a great time, and I mean, you guys, you can always, get through me through the Nigerian Youth SDGs, and I'm very, very happy to continue to provide my expertise. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much for the offer for the continual support. We appreciate it. Okay, since we have no other question or comment for our facilitator, I think at this point she can say our goodbyes to us.
Do we take a group picture?
Oh, okay. Okay, please, can we on our camera, let's do a group picture. Okay, and Bolu, please let me know when that is done. Okay, so let's see our faces while we take our group pictures. And please let's know when it's done, Bolu.
We need more people to turn on their cameras.
Oh, please, cameras. Let's turn on our cameras and let's see the beautiful faces that we've been engaging with. Do we have enough cameras now?
Yes, I was able to take some shots, so yeah, thank you.
All right, thank you so much.
All
Thank
right.
you so much.
Bye, everyone. Is
Yeah,
that all
bye-bye.
before I leave? Just to be sure.
Yes.
All right, thank
So
you so much.
the next thing is for the UTSOs to take the post tests.
What did you say?
From your end, no, I said from your end, that's fine.
All
So
right,
we'll be
thank
engaging
you
with the
so much,
UTSOs,
everyone.
yeah, for the post
Thank
test.
you.
Thank
All
you
right,
so much.
bye.
Yes. Bye. Bye-bye.